also stewards of our land, not just parks, and they have some difficulties having any staff available to help with that. So I think when we talk about long-term maintenance and infrastructure maintenance, trees are part of infrastructure, and having dedicated staff to maintain that infrastructure would be best if I was talking about our ideal wish list. So I think that would be the next best. And I want to really quickly mention a program that Codes has. So Codes does have a tree removal program. Now, our arborist, our city arborist, does have to go out and make sure that the tree is in such poor health that it can be removed. It's income qualified. And we are partnering with Codes right now to basically, if the homeowner does want to replace their tree, providing them with some options of replacement. But I do want to mention we do have a tree removal, and that is not a tree maintenance program for residents, but it is a tree removal program.
Last point, could we model a maintenance program after that removal program? Just curious.
That would take a lot of staff.
My point, we need more staff, which is why I support expanding the Mayor's Future Readiness Academy. Thank you so much, Maven.
Thank you. Any other council members before I go? No?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may?
Yes.
One of the things that Maven and her team have done a really good job over the last couple of years is developing relationships with volunteer groups. Mm-hmm. You mentioned MAR and neighborhood groups, because we recognize that right now, given the resources that we have, mm-hmm. We can't do it all. The city can't do it all themselves. No. And since trees are a community asset, and there are volunteers mm-hmm. in the community out there that are willing to do the watering. And so we're working with communities to try to identify those volunteers. And maybe, as an idea, we can continue to work with the neighborhood associations or the neighborhoods themselves so they can develop their own group of volunteers within the neighborhood mm-hmm. that could help out with mm-hmm. the homeowner who doesn't have the ability to do it themselves.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for that point, because it actually leads into my first question. So prior to the hurricanes, we were actively engaging with our, let's call it, tree lover community, and they were going out into neighborhoods and doing physical tree countings. And I know this because I looked out my front window one day and my neighbors were in my yard counting all my trees, and I was very excited. I was not upset at all, of course, as a tree hugger myself. I was very excited and went out and talked with them and understood that they were going through our entire neighborhood. They were all neighbors. They were counting those trees. They were measuring them. And so that was something that I think, we were trying to kind of get off the ground. And some neighborhoods were taking advantage of it. In Berkeley Estates, we call ourselves a neighborhood of trees, and so it was easy sell to get neighbors and volunteers to do that, but I recognize that it probably was more difficult in other areas. So my question is, have we looked at that program, and have we talked about how to reinvigorate that and get people back out to counting those trees?
Yeah, so we do have our citizen foresters.
Yes.
And we are excited to look at that program and really, to the point of seeing what our volunteers want to do. Right. And so it has been a little inactive since we've been in a staff change. And so we're excited to have that back. And that is a really great idea. And so we'll definitely be exploring that. I know the neighborhoods really liked doing that. So that is part of that program that we will explore.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very, very happy to see us getting residents back out and engaged, because it brings awareness mm-hmm. and it really helps to keep everyone engaged with the work we're doing. Second question, talked a little bit about the waivers, and thank you, Councilmember Givens, for bringing that up. I have also had similar concerns from residents, and I have signed one of those waivers myself, and again, probably didn't read it. I was just excited to get my tree. So I wanted to ask, because one of the things that was mentioned, legal, was that, one of those is the responsibility of watering. We are under a water emergency right now, but we're actively still giving trees away and asking people to sign these waivers. So when you mentioned the watering, it made me a little nervous, because right now we're at a place where you shouldn't really be watering to the degree that you need for a brand new tree. So how are you all dealing with that?
It's actually interesting you bring it up. I was just talking to Chelsea, our urban forester, before, because Sharon, our landscape architect, we were having in conversation. April and May are driest months, and it's not. We do not necessarily want to be planting as a city during those driest months because we know new trees do need more water, right? So I think you bring up a good point. We will have to really look at that on how we do that effectively in our giveaways. Is it during the months of April and May that we either just don't, or do we give away more drought tolerant during April and May and just say, hey, these are more drought tolerant, we know that they could, so that might be an answer to that.
Yeah, that would be the way I would want to see it go. And anyone who's familiar with planting in the state of Florida knows that there are certain times of year you should be planting things and certain times of year that it's just an exercise in futility.
Yeah.
You're going to put a baby sapling out there and the heat's going to dry it up no matter how much you try. So I think there's systematic things that we need to make sure that we are using, kind of our common sense and our scientific research to know. Because if we are having people sign waivers that they're going to take care of these trees, and we're giving it to them during a time period when we know either A, it's going to get beaten up by the sun and those saplings aren't going to live anyway, or we can't water properly. I mean, these are all the things me and my husband have conversations about when we're planting in our home. And so I just want to make sure that we're having those conversations as a city so that we're not setting people up to fail. Because anyone who's taking these trees genuinely wants them to survive, but they may not have that same level of experience or education, and we don't, again, want to set them up to fail. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Now I want to get into this data, because the first thing I'm going to say is District 2, that tree canopy before 2024, I don't know that I had ever actually seen that number before. That's amazing. 45% of District 2 with tree canopy before the hurricanes, phenomenal. But I want to get real about this second column, 45%, 0.02. I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to tell you from my own lived experience, my home was damaged by my largest tree falling on my house. So you would have caught that being gone in January of 2025. What you would not have caught, I had 7, 8 other trees on my property. Within about 5 months of the hurricane, because of the saltwater inundation, and then 2 weeks later, because of the wind burn, 5 of my trees had to be removed because they were dying and unstable. That happened in May. I pulled up my tree permit to remind myself, because when you're living through a rebuild, time is not real. So I reminded myself in May of 2025, we removed 5 more of those trees. When my permit was pulled, they came out, they looked, they approved my permit. My requirement was to replant 2 after losing 5. I have replanted my 2. I have replanted my 1, and my second one is in a pot ready to be replanted. But I'm telling you from personal experience, that number in District 2, I just have a really hard time believing, just anecdotally, that that is accurate today. Because you had every single neighborhood in District 2 recovering in some way, shape, or form from the storms. So by January 2025, if it had not fallen and was not in your way, you weren't necessarily worried and or even realized that that tree that was still left maybe was just not going to make it and you were going to have to remove it. So I think there's been a lot more tree removal since January of 2025 due to circumstances like that. So I just use my own experience to tell you what's happening anecdotally on the ground. And so I guess I want to understand, when the drone photos were done by USDA, when was that done?
I'm uncertain.
Okay, because I know we can't get that data, but I hope that at some point we are going to be able to get that. And I would like to know, was that done a little bit later into 2025 when people had been moving through recovery and were finally at that point? Because by May, my roof has been replaced. I no longer have, future water intrusion coming in. I'm moving into redoing the inside of the house. Now I have the bandwidth to think, oh my gosh, another hurricane season's coming and I have 5 trees that are in some level of, danger, and I can now take on the job of getting these removed. That's what people were going through specifically in District 2. I don't think this number, we can look at this and go, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. Great. Not a whole lot of work to do there. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's a real picture. So I'd like to know on the drone photos when that was done, and hopefully when we will be able to continue to work to get that information, because that might help to fill in those gaps. My last question specific to this piece is, again, when I pulled my permit, lost 5, told to plant 2. I did that because, again, I'm a tree hugger. I want these trees. I cried when they removed the other 5 trees. My husband will tell you I fought him tooth and nail until I was convinced that they were a danger. A lot of other people in my position probably have replanted their trees because that's what they were told to do. But we could have a lot of people who haven't. Have we gone back in and pulled those permits and reached out to those residents and said, did you replant your trees? And if not, we have trees to give. Have we done that?
So I think
Joe coming, because
Okay.
that falls under his shop. So you were behind the pillar. I couldn't see you. So
didn't know you were here, Joe. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Joe Waugh, Neighborhood Services Managing Director. So I will certainly touch base with Shane and his
Yeah.
team, but we have in the past received notifications from them that they had issued a permit, the replant did not happen,
Yeah.
and then we initiated a codes case in order to get that replanted and addressed.
Okay,
so
so
it's
that's where I want to stop you, and I don't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt, but I don't want us issuing a codes case. I want us to be working with our residents to say, yes, we've noticed.
Yeah.
Here's a solution. We can help you.
Yeah.
You know the difference behind that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think in everything that we do within
Yeah.
code, just to try to provide that education assistance first, obviously.
Right.
So if we do, intentionally go back and look at all of these, we find those ones where they have not done
Yeah.
those replants, we will absolutely partner with Maven and her
Yeah.
team in order to connect those 2 dots and then hopefully be able to get those replants completed, and then
Yeah.
we don't even have to be a part of the conversation.
I
other
would
than connecting the
love for
dots.
us to find a way to do that. And I think that for me is a takeaway that I would like to have us come back and have a conversation about. So I'm going to leave this on the referral list because I think that we've got a little bit more digging to do here. I'd like to understand, and this is a conversation for the future because we do have more items to go. I want to understand what it looks like to do this dot analysis again, what that investment might be, and I want us to get a little bit more granular and more current on all of this information because, again, January 2025, people were in a different place. And I worry that some of these numbers, there may be a bigger impact than what we're really seeing. And there's a bigger opportunity to the codes conversation to marry all of this work together. And to Councilmember Gibbons' point, let's come back in that conversation with some sort of comprehensive update as to all of the trees that have been planted and given out and it doesn't have to be specifics. It can be heat maps or whatever you want it to be or broken down by district, but I would like to see that as well as part of that conversation. So that gives us some takeaways to come back with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Very good. Administration, anything else on this one? No? All right. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about food forest.
Great, thank you. Okay, great. And Madam Chair, I know the people sitting in this room are probably not new to this conversation of the community urban agriculture program, but I know we've been waiting a long time for this. Giving a brief history, we started talking about this in 2022. We're now in 2026. The great news is that the Office of Sustainability and Resilience has really started to build their staff. So, we recently hired Nicole Shanaville as our supervisor, and she's really hitting the ground running on this program. So I think probably, the reason why, and so for the community to know too, just it takes a long time sometimes when we don't have dedicated staff to work on something. So we're really excited to put life back in it, and Nicole's just going to be the right lady for the job, so I appreciate her. So we're revisiting this. The last time you seen it was around March 2025. I'm going to talk a little bit about the change. We've made very minimal changes to the program, but there are some. So, of course, we're looking at BP funding to fund two different sides of projects. One is food forest creation. This is new food forests where food forests weren't previously at. The other one is community garden expansion or enhancement or revitalization. So it really should be kind of looked at as two separate programs because it really does target two separate different audiences. So, what are going to be our priority areas? Well, if we look at our Healthy Food Action Plan, they had already designated food priority areas. The Office of Sustainability and Resilience is going to take this and keep moving with that. So we are going to, we are encouraging everyone to apply, but these food priority areas will be taken into consideration and score a little higher on that grant worksheet there. So just want to kind of let everyone know, and so everyone can see this and revisit that again. But here's some next steps. So one thing that we really notice when we get down to the nitty gritty of trying to develop this program is that we need to listen. So one thing we lack the knowledge of is what do community gardens actually need? Some of them need fencing. Some of them need water. Some of them need electricity. These are all very kind of unique things depending on where they're at and where they're located. And so to make the best program possible, I think we have to listen first. And so what we've decided is around June, we're going to host 2 different listening sessions. And we're going to invite the local food community to those listening sessions and really just say, hey, what are your needs here? What is your must-haves, right? This grant isn't going to... I know one community garden that has told me I need fencing, I need irrigation, I need electricity. I don't think this grant is going to cover all of that, right? So, even level setting with the community gardens, why don't you start working on your priority list? What are your priorities? So really excited to host those 2 in-person listening sessions. We're also going to provide awareness for those upcoming opportunities, because one thing we're really excited about in the development of this program is that this grant program will be an award of services. So we are releasing at the same time an RFP after we do the grant, which would provide the opportunity for our urban agriculture businesses to bid on it. Because one thing we realized is that our community gardens might not have the financial infrastructure in place to take funding. And what we would not like to do is basically limit the opportunity of a community garden because they couldn't take government funding and grant manage. So we're really excited to be able to provide that 2-prong approach while supporting and enhancing businesses surrounded around local food, and then also enhancing our community garden and local food assets at the same time. And so we really feel like it's going to be a win-win approach, but it's going to take a lot of stakeholder engagement, a lot of understanding to get there. So we are partnering with the greenhouse and procurement. And so they're going to, after we do the listening sessions, we're going to host 3 community workshops. So that way we really cover a wide area of timing so we can try to make sure that everyone can make it that wants to be involved. And procurement in the greenhouse is going to help us, build up our local food businesses if they want to apply for this grant funding to help us implement this program. And then on the other end, we're also going to work with our community gardens and things like that to show them how you would apply for this grant and what are the necessary steps for that, and really work with them on a plan for the future of their community garden and work to identify any issues that are coming up, because that has not yet been documented. So we're excited about that. And so after we do that, we're going to then release the grant application. We're going to invite everyone to apply. They'll get emails, things of that nature. And then after the grant application is closed, we're going to select our professional services contractor. So we'll release our mini RFP, because we'll have a really good idea of what services we're going to need. And then we'll be able to bring on someone to do the work. So we're very excited for that. That is going to be a length of time. One of the things about urban agriculture in general, is it does work in seasons. And that's what kind of is going to impact when this program can go, because we do not want to release funding in June and July, because then you get a bunch of residents activated and it's 90 degrees outside, and let me tell you, they don't want to grow another tomato after that. We want to activate them during the nice time where they're enjoying their time in the garden, and really, the summer is for, just a different, yes, a different environment. Thank you. Yes, so we're going to move through this process, and we're going to move through it as quickly as we can. So I don't want to necessarily put a date on it yet, because if we, it's either January, February for spring, really, to get on that, August, September for fall. And then other than that, we're going in somewhere mid-season. So we're hoping we're going to work as quickly as we can, and we're going to work with some of those other individuals, and maybe they would be okay and flexible with having it sooner or later or something like that. So, metrics of success. So what we're going to look for when we talk about, and I think this is also going to come back in the listening session, but when we provide this grant funding, right, we're going to need some metrics to show if it was successful or if it was not. And so we're looking at, food production and distribution, the growth of the garden and the food forest network, community satisfaction, and investment and resource allocation. So we're going to be looking at these different metrics and working with the contractor that we hire on, as well as the community garden and local food forest to, identify those and make sure that they're situationally appropriate. Mm-hmm. We wanted to talk a little bit about how we are continuing the work of healthy food action plans. I hear a lot of times from residents, the plans sit on the shelves, but we want to make sure that no plan is sitting on the shelf. So we're taking the work that was previously done and expanding it. So we are addressing some of these goals up here, and that plan was done in 2024. So we're excited to keep continuing working on that plan, as well as I think Healthy St. Pete even has 4 to 5 programs right now working on this plan. So the city's actively engaged. Scaling operations and future opportunities. I just wanted to bring this up. We do have the ability during this listening session and this grant opportunity to basically create a needs assessment. So what do our community gardens need? Where are they located at? How much are they producing? How many volunteers are involved? Those kinds of things we can look at documenting and getting that and providing that to the city. We are looking to build a larger urban food network that the city would host. I know the city has done this previously in the past, and Madam Chair, you've brought up, reviving this group. And so we're getting a little more proactive on that. We just recently met with Hometown Hillsborough, which is a group in Hillsborough that's a community agriculture network that's highly successful, that I'll talk about here in just a second. And again, future opportunities. This is just here to provide some ideas of where we could really go. Healthy St. Pete is already doing a lot of work, but of course there's always more work that can be done. And, it was when we were in conversation with Hometowns Hillsborough, which didn't make the presentation because it was just recent, they are operated by the county. And the county provides around $250,000 annually to go into scaling local businesses and food programs. So I thought that was very interesting. So yeah, thank you. Sorry, I know I'm very abrupt when it stops.
No, you're good. Thank you. I'm sure that sparked a lot of thoughts and conversations. So, council members, anything? No? Councilmember Givens.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much, Maven. I appreciate you. This is something that I'm excited to hear about. Certainly excited to see this get off the ground running. I want to start where you left off. You mentioned the Hillsborough County Initiative. Is there any local municipality in Florida that's currently operating one? Can we?
When my previous career at the City of Orlando, we operated a Good Food Central Florida group. And so there's many municipalities across the board that operate food networks.
I would just add to that very quickly, and I had a comment here to remind myself. On Monday at the Regional Planning Council Resiliency Coalition meeting, we had a presentation from Pasco County. And Pasco County, the work that they have done to bring together a food network within Pasco and even neighboring to Hillsborough. They are really the model regionally for this. But to your point, Maven, there is also a state organization, the State Food Policy Council, and they do a lot of this work of building food system networks. To be very clear, urban agriculture and all of the benefits that come from that work have to be done regionally because of sourcing and all of that. So Pasco County, if you're looking to someone to do a model, and we would be happy to send to all of City Council the presentation that we saw at the Regional Planning Council on Monday, because it was phenomenal. And you can go back and watch that recording as well.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just
Thank you, Chair.
thought that was
Appreciate you sharing
valuable to
that.
the conversation.
And
Please.
then my last question, this map, slide 35 here for priority areas, how was that determined? Because you mentioned that, okay, we have two separate initiatives, the food forest and then our community gardens projects. Did we lump them all together to come up with these priority areas? Because it seems like maybe there could be two different maps. I just wanted some clarification there.
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah, no, yeah.
it's a staff question.
Go ahead, Maven, and then I'll let Councilmember Driscoll if she has I feel like this is more of a conversation, so I'm interested in
like how
that.
it's long.
Yeah, I like it.
So, some of this, and, Kim Leto from Healthy St. Pete, she was disappointed she could not be here today, but they're actually promoting one of their food programs with the media, so they had a previous responsibility. But this data does come from the U.S. Census Bureau American Community Survey data for healthy food priority areas. I know my office, we also looked at the USDA low food access areas, and when we overlaid them to this, it matched pretty well. So I can't speak for what they previously and why, but that is where I believe that data came from. And when we overlaid it, it seemed to match pretty well with USDA.
Councilmember Driscoll, do you have anything specific
Oh,
that you wanted
just
to
that-
add?
Thanks. I was thinking maybe he looked at it the same way that I did. When I first glanced at this, you see the left side, then you see the map, and you're thinking that's a map of where all these things are. And then you look over here, and it's like, oh, wait, no, this is
No.
different. The
Yeah.
map actually goes with the information on the right,
Yeah,
not on the left.
yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
But I do like seeing it all together because it does remind us that they need to go hand in hand.
Yes.
And that's a great point, Councilmember Driscoll. I do have one point regarding the priority areas, though. So I'm looking at map number 13 and 15, and then where they fall on the poverty access line here. Looks like map area 13 is about 43% below poverty, and then map area 15 is 36% below poverty compared to priority area number 1, which is 15% below poverty. So I'm just wondering, how do we balance that? How do we scale that as far as where poverty level falls into the equation, determining what's priority and what's not?
I think that's a good question that we'll take back and think about and be able to provide an answer to. But I think I would want some time to really think about how we could, prioritize. And it could just be part of the scoring criteria of priorities, because when we looked at this map, we just it wasn't like number 1 is our focus. It was more like 1 to 17 in this broad. But if there is areas that have lower poverty thresholds than other areas, should we prioritize those, right? And the answer is probably yes. And so I think we can model that in our scoring criteria, and I appreciate you pointing that out today.
No, and I appreciate your answer and your candidness, and I think that's why we're having this conversation now, so we can provide that feedback. Because again, when you're considering that, you also have to consider, food insecurity. How many of these neighborhoods or map areas have access to a grocery store? That has a lot to do in making that decision. But those are my comments, and thank you all so much on this. I'm excited to see this conversation continue. Thank you, Chair.
And I'm just going to add to your point real quickly, so I might be done by the time we get to me, that on this, and I'll speak specifically to number 1, because when I saw this as well, that's my district. I understand very clearly that by the USDA information is labeled as a, quote, food desert, food insecure area. And really, it is because there is such a high number of seniors in that geographic area, and that they don't have the same access as others with transportation and funding and all of that. So I look at this as an opportunity to reprioritize, because the way it's laid out to me and my common sense just goes, oh, well, you just started on the north end of the city and you just kind of laid it out, right? But I do think to that point that, you know, it could be and should be, in my mind, reprioritized based upon poverty level and demographic. Because, and I say demographic specifically because of our senior community and the communities of which have large numbers of children in them, because those are two of our most vulnerable populations. And those, I think, should also be considered as we are prioritizing these areas. So I'll leave that there. Councilmember Driscoll.
Thank you. So just staying on that for a moment, as you're coming up with the parameters for where this can happen, and then later on you talk about what success looks like and what we're looking for, and some of that is about growing food and how much of that is going to local food pantries. Mm-hmm. I don't want to leave out an opportunity for a neighborhood or a group within a neighborhood that is not listed on this map to grow food, to take on this project, and then donate the food to an organization that is located in one of the healthy food priority areas.
Yep.
So where it grows and where it goes can be two different things. We want to make sure that we're supporting both. Tell me about, just quickly, there's the slides aren't numbered, but on the brief history slide at the bottom, it says score sheet in development to assess applicant eligibility and prioritization criteria. Do you anticipate that that will be finished prior to the first listening session in June?
No, because we want to listen and take in, just like all of you today have given us such good feedback. The listening sessions is more on a feedback, and we can put up a draft, most certainly, and I think that would be appropriate to put up a draft scoring criteria and then ask if we're missing anything or what others might think. But when we go to do our community workshops is when we were planning on presenting more of that. This is the finalized scoring matrix, to have that there.
Okay.
But that's certainly a good idea. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I didn't think about that beforehand. So we'll make sure to present a draft version of that.
Right, because I see it both ways. It'd be nice to have something so that people are like, I don't know if I'm eligible. Right. Well, let's talk about that. Whereas if you took a finalized scoring sheet and then you go to listening sessions, there might be something that comes up that we didn't think about.
Yeah, thank you.
So having community input at that point, I think, is a good idea.
Absolutely.
Will you make sure that City Council knows when these sessions are coming up in case any of us wants to sit in and observe?
Absolutely.
And then I do hope this will stay on the referral list, maybe come back after the, those are done. As far as what time of the year to do things, as you mentioned earlier, different projects have different needs. One might need help with irrigation. Not everybody's ready to put seeds in the ground. So if somebody needs the fence, that can be done in June, that can be done in July, right? So I think it depends on where the needs are. I don't know that we have to restrict it by growing seasons or anything like that. I think it should just depend on what is needed. And the beauty of this is that it's new, and so we can make it look however we want it to. Right? She likes that.
Yeah.
And I am,
part of the
I am
fun.
so glad that you are working on this. I can tell that you're passionate about it and excited, because we do have wide open road when it comes to creating this. And I want to thank Committee Chair Gabbard for bringing this forward and being so persistent with moving it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members? No. Well, I'll just kind of finish up with a couple of thoughts, and then we'll get to our last item. So I'll kind of start where Councilmember Driscoll left off, and I actually wrote down where it grows and where it goes are two different things, and I love it, and I might steal it.
Go ahead.
But I think we should all be saying it, right? Because it's
I didn't even
so
plan it. It just happened.
true. So true. And I think that, again, you know, we want to be growing food across our community and understanding the benefits and that trickle out from these neighborhoods back to that map in the middle, that, you know, they have more access, but they also want to participate, and they care deeply that we have other parts of our community that do not have access. I mean, I would point to the membership of the One Community Grocery Co-op. The individuals who are members of that organization don't just live in South St. Pete. There are people all over our city who are members of that organization because they understand the importance for our entire city. So I love that, and I'm going to steal it, and I think we should all be like chanting that. We should come up with a little song to put on St. Pete TV about it, because I loved it.
Why do you think I wanted to see on the referral list?
I love it. I love it. Maybe that's what we'll call this item. So thank you for that. And then I also wanted to kind of talk about the cycling of the year, right? The seasonality of this work. And I completely agree. And I had written that down as well. Because a lot of this, like we're talking about community garden expansion projects, food forest pilot projects. Okay, well, it's my hopes that maybe we get to a place where it's also community garden new projects, not just expansion. It's expansion of the whole program, but new community gardens, because we have a perfect example that lives right here under our roof, which is the youth farm. And anyone who knew the youth farm when it was just a piece of land knows what it has taken to get to where they are today, being able to grow food all year long. That is tough work. And that is what these community gardens are going to come across, is they are going to need those building blocks. Those building blocks can be done in seasons and should be done in seasons that are not good for actual growing. Because you need to sometimes bring in soil, you've got to do your irrigation, maybe your fencing, whatever it is, it's the infrastructure of the garden. All of us who have our own community gardens in our backyards, that's the kind of stuff we do during the summer. You get up early in the morning and you work on your irrigation system, recognizing that you're prepping it and getting it ready for the fall season when you can grow more than okra and evergreen tomatoes, because that's all you're growing in the summer. Like it just is. You might grow some kale and collards, but there comes a point in time when you're not growing that either. And so we need to be using that summer time period to get people ready for growing. And that work alone is really the heavy lift. The fun part's putting the stuff in the ground. This first part is not the fun part, but it's really, really important, and we can help people get ready for that fun part of the season. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of level set a little bit on my vision of what the timing would be, because there is stuff that can be done all year long to make it ultimately more sustainable and more successful and more enjoyable for people. Because there's nothing more like disheartening than planting a bunch of stuff and then Florida summer comes and eats it up, because that was my first experience, being a little naive to the process. So I'll go ahead and leave it there. I will leave this on the referral list because, by golly, I'm not going to let it go. So I look forward to continuing to have these conversations and continuing to be the leader in urban agriculture in our community. So thank you. All right, let's get on to one of our newest new business items for the referral list, which is it is Councilwoman Driscoll's item. This is a referral on the bird sanctuary. So I'm very excited to have this conversation. It's a new conversation for us. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Driscoll.
Thank you. And I will start by thanking you for getting this onto a committee
Gladly.
agenda so quickly, because we do have some, this is something that is time sensitive. With this one came about just thinking about how our city is growing and it becoming more and more important for us to take thoughtful steps to preserve, protect our wildlife and their habitats that are really part of making our city so special. I mean, we literally have a pelican in our logo.
Yep.
So this is really focused on protecting our local bird populations and ensuring that future growth and development continue to be in balance with the ecosystems that sustain them. Talking with Heather Judd, this idea of looking at the Florida rules for establishing a bird sanctuary seemed to align very well with what I was looking for here. And so I'll let her kind of explain what that process is. In my mind, this should be an easy yes. I hope that it will be. But this is the first step towards really showing, even though we're becoming so dense, we still really value our natural environment and our feathered neighbors. With that, I will turn things over to Heather.
So thank you, Councilwoman Driscoll. I just want to preface that the majority of this work and the research was done by my colleague, Sarah Lucker, and my intern, Hannah Howe, and Sarah was sick today and couldn't be here. So I was really hoping that she would be here to take the lead and take the credit for the work that she's done. She does have a background working with FWC, so that was kind of why I asked her to help me with this. So the Florida Administrative Code 68A-19.002, as Councilwoman Driscoll said, does establish a rulemaking procedure for bird sanctuaries. And it says that in requesting establishment of such restricted hunting areas or bird sanctuaries, the governing body shall, by proper resolution or ordinance, officially agree to assume the responsibility for enforcement of regulations of the commission which apply to such areas. So that's why you do see a draft ordinance here, and the draft ordinance shows a potential amendment to city code for chapter 4. That's our animals chapter. And this was modeled after what we saw in a lot of other cities. Generally, there's two different ways you can request a bird sanctuary. You can request a certain discrete area or just request citywide. And a lot of cities have done citywide, and then they have that in their code. So you'd be enforcing both by ordinance violations and by the requisite FWC regulations and Florida statute, improper hunting in prohibited areas, things like that. So we decided to try for the entire city, and the reasons for that is we have contained 300 miles of coastline, so we do have a large shorebird population, and it just made sense to do this because if we were having an issue with hunting and we were closing certain areas, it would probably just move right down the shoreline, and so this seemed to be the best way to start. Now, you'll see in the Florida Administrative Code, it talks about once they receive the request, the staff will investigate to ensure the tract under consideration is sufficiently developed as to preclude recreational hunting. We're one of the most dense county and the largest city in the most dense county, so I think we're going to meet that development. So, but they could restrict the area, and that would require us to come back and amend this ordinance, but we did start with a citywide. And I would say the only change, if council wanted to go ahead and move this upstairs and go ahead and pass the ordinance, I would just suggest an amendment to section 5, so that would be our right now you see our standard effective date language. This would be modified to show that it would only become effective and then sent to our codifier if and when the commission approved it. And if they approve it, great, it will go into effect at that point. If they request a smaller area, then we would just amend this and then put it into effect.
If I could.
Yes, please.
And I just want to add that every step that Heather just talked about has to be done to give that body a chance to do that investigation, evaluate our city, and make that recommendation in July. It's the only time they put the, they like open the door for this until January. And I'd like to have it done. Well, I'm still on city council,
There you
actually.
go. Yes.
But yeah, this is, and there are, still, this doesn't impact development at all. It doesn't restrict development. What it does is it recognizes what we already have. And yes, there's development happening all over our city at this point. And so we just want to make sure that we're protecting what we still have. But yeah, so again, I really appreciate the expedited process here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any, Councilmember Givens, I think I see your
Yes,
hand.
thank you, Chair.
Yes.
And this is probably a question for Councilmember Driscoll, but the issue that was raised, can you tell us, was there an isolated incident that happened? How did we get here? Perhaps I missed that, but was there an improper recreational hunting incident that occurred?
I wouldn't call it improper by legal terms. But yeah, there were some conversations among residents who have concerns about recreational hunting in close proximity to residential areas, parks, dog parks, walking trails. That was how the conversation started. But then it made me ask the larger picture of, this of protection and protection of our wildlife. You see that there are things that are happening in other parts of our county regarding birds and nesting that needs to be protected, that sort of thing. And so I wanted to find out what's an easy, good way for us to start really doing our part. And that's how the bird sanctuary came up. Traditionally, there has been regular incidents of hunting in our city. And this would actually provide clear guidance on where that can and can't happen within St. Petersburg.
Thank you,
I hope that
Councilmember
answers,
Driscoll.
I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Is that it? Any other questions from council members about the bird sanctuary item? So I just have, I think, one question, almost ties into the theme of what we've already been talking about today with trees and all of that. So my question is specific to habitat protection. Does anything here, and I'm very supportive of this, does it help to strengthen anything around tree removal and habitat protection? The reason that I asked that question, again, and I hate to keep talking about my trees, but the trees that we had to have removed after the fact was part of my little pine forest in the front yard. And for generations in my neighborhood, golden-crested night herons have used those trees as their, nesting. And for some reason, as they've been cut down throughout the neighborhood over the years, my home was, certainly the area they like to come to because I had so many of them. We have been able to keep some, so I'm very happy to report they returned again this spring and they are nesting again in my front yard. But loss of tree canopy affects habitation and being able to nest. And so I wanted to know if this helps us in any way when people do file for those tree permits for removal. Would there be any consideration as to whether or not those are approved if they can be proven to be habitat with this designation?
I would say generally, I don't think that was the purpose
Yeah.
of this section
Yeah.
of Florida Administrative Code,
Okay.
but it does prevent, the code language would be shoot, trap, kill, or any manner injure, or disturb, or displace any bird of any kind of their
Displace.
eggs or young. That's generally meaning so people going to like a roosting spot and
Yes,
harvesting
absolutely.
eggs,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things like that. I don't think it would be for just protection of individual trees. And there's also the component of it has to be within 500 feet of a sign. And anticipated signage would probably be placed where birds are tending to congregate. So Bird Island, some of the mangrove
Yeah.
forest areas,
Right.
some of our wildlife preserve parks and passive parks. That's generally where the signage would be
Got it.
placed and be enforceable, even though it
Not
would
in
be
front of my
citywide.
house with my
I doubt
my
there would be a
golden
sign
crested
within-
night
yes.
herons. Okay, got it. Got it. Yeah, because I'm just thinking, I mean, it's important for, if we're going to say that we are a bird sanctuary, habitation is part of that. So I was just curious if there were any ties we could work through there. Councilmember Driscoll?
Thank you. One of the reasons I love that these are both on the same agenda is
Yeah.
because they do go quite well together. The more trees that we have, the more habitat
Right.
opportunities we have
Yeah.
for the birds, which strengthens our status as a bird sanctuary city if we should go down that route.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing this forward. I'm very supportive. The small town I grew up in Indiana, there was a neighboring town that had a bird sanctuary. And even when I go back today, I still go and I walk through that area. It's beautiful, and it really just reminds you of all of the benefits of protecting our nature. So thank you for bringing this forward. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to move to have this resolution sent to full council.
The ordinance?
I'm sorry, the ordinance. It's a
This might be the easiest ordinance you've
Different
ever
idea.
passed, right?
different, yes.
All right.
Yes, I'll move approval I'll move to have the ordinance move forward to full city council.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, very good, passes, and we'll take it upstairs.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
final
Just-
words?
Yes, just quickly, at this, there's a point at which we send the request to FWC. Tell us what this timeline is going to look like, because we know we're against the clock.
I think that as long as we're in 45 days before the hearing, I believe that's sufficient. We'll try to shoot for 60 days, so we'll get this ordinance going on the soonest available agenda, and then as soon as it's complete, we can transmit the package.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, fantastic. Council members, anything else? No? All right, seeing nothing, we're ending a little bit early, so very good. Thank you all. Thank you.
We are actually here in South St. Pete to serve people that have a hard time, financial burden, and we have the mission of bringing healthcare accessible for all. And we have experiences that a lot of patients in here that had to make decision between they're gonna pay for the medical bills or they're gonna have to pay their light bill. And we want to be that space to fill the gap of the need for this community. When the healing came, we have started to seeing a lot of the need, and by that time, we just take action on our own. We just went to Restaurant Depot, grabbed some food, and decide to feed people. Then after that, week after, Milton came. That buried everyone in the ground. So by that time, we feel the urge in that we got hit too, but we can't stop. So the next day after Milton laying on South St. Pete, we start distribution again. We start do the work again. We start serving people again. When we have the drive-through, I was the one that checked in. And pretty much everyone that come here, check in, put their name on, they come with tears. And they said that thank you so much that for this opportunity, for this giving, because they seem lost. They seem lost, and they can see the pain, the heartache, the traumas, and all the things that they're going through that they don't even know what it's gonna look like for them the next day. By that time, we are St. Pete Fund doesn't exit yet. So it's kind of like, I feel like we're on our own, that we have to go through this. But then when the funding have launched, it was quick. That funding come to help us to kind of like put everything back together, put the wall up, seal the roof, restock all the food and supply and the medical supply in here. And that St. Pete Fund has helped us a lot to become who we are today.
My name is Catherine Washington, and I'm the first Black female firefighter for the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm very proud to be that and hold that title. A trailblazer is a person, and they go out and they do something that is mostly done by one gender. And they pierce that and they make something out of it that redistributed what people think of each other. I always wanted to kind of do what I call dangerous work. Something that somebody else didn't want to do, So when my sister said, hey, they hiring, so I said, I want to go for the fire department. And I went. In this world, for me to be a firefighter, it was the most unique thing that I could ever think to be. Me being in the Army Reserve gave me a step up to think I could do way more things. I could lift the weights, I could come out of the building out of a window just like the man did, and that gave me the chance to do it. We used to have the Martin Luther King parade. One time, I didn't want to be in the parade, I wanted to see the parade. Well, I had these 3 African-American older females that I knew knock on my door and say to me, you do not miss another parade as long as you're on this department, because we have young girls out here who need to see you and know that they can aspire to be what you are. So don't be standing over here in the crowd with us. You be out there walking with them fellas. If I could say something to kids who think they can't aspire to be this because they have problems and they think those problems hold them down, don't let what you think you hold you back. Aspire to be what you want to be in spite of that. And then you can see yourself being somebody else.
Hi, my name is Megan Orlando. I'm the Emergency Management Specialist for the Office of Emergency Management in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm here to talk about Alert Pinellas. Alert Pinellas is our emergency notification tool. That's how we get our emergency notifications out to the public and to our communities. Alert Pinellas can distribute a wide range of notifications, watches and warnings for tornadoes, storm surge, high winds. It can alert for shelter evacuations, for boil water notices, and hazardous materials incidents. You can register for Alert Pinellas using the link on the screen. You can register with your email, with text messages, or to receive a phone call. Pro tip, you can add the Alert Pinellas phone number to your phone, so that way you know when you're getting a call from us. Opting into Alert Pinellas is the best way to ensure that you receive emergency notifications from your partners at the City of St. Pete and Pinellas County. Every storm creates its unique hazards, so follow city socials to stay up to date on the most important information.
To address St. Pete's growth and rising housing costs, Mayor Welsh launched the Housing Opportunities for All plan in April of 2023. It is a multi-year plan that will help residents settle, stay, and feel stable in St. Pete. Housing affordability is a key element in Mayor Ken Welsh and his team's agenda, and one of his 5 pillars for progress. The next milestone in the Housing Opportunities for All plan is the citywide expansion of the Rebates for Affordable Residential Rehabs program, previously only offered in the South St. Pete CRA. The program provides rebates to eligible homeowners to make improvements to their properties, making it easier to stay in their homes. Examples of potential improvements covered by rebates are structural repairs, roof replacement, electric and plumbing upgrades, window and door replacement, HVAC replacement, insulation upgrades, kitchen and bath upgrades, and accessory dwelling unit construction. For more information on qualifications and how to apply, visit stpete.org/home rebates.
District 8 is located from the interstate to Tyrone Boulevard and runs north to south from Central Avenue to 40th Avenue North. I'm Richie Floyd, your council member for District 8. I'm standing along the shores of Jorgensen Lake Park, located directly behind our main public library, a place where students and residents throughout our city have visited and utilized over the decades and still frequent to this day. The newly renovated President Barack Obama Main Library will be an impressive, well-known asset to all in our community. Another major landmark in District 8 is St. Pete High. This highly rated school, built back in 1926, has served as a campus for generations of Green Devils in the Sunshine City. You haven't experienced all of St. Pete if you haven't stopped by Mazzaro's Italian Market. This true Italian market serves as a destination for lunch, fresh roasted coffee and beverages, and homemade pasta. District 8 is also home to one of our best business districts, Grand Central, with plenty of places to eat and shop. Grand Central was also the birthplace of St. Pete Pride and the Pride Parade, and still plays a role in our city's annual Pride events. If you're looking to escape the grind of the city, this district also features several city parks, including Gladden Park and Booker Creek Park, which includes new pickleball courts. District 8 has the right mix of people, neighborhoods, parks, shopping, and culture. In a lot of ways, it's the best representation of what St. Pete is all about.
Mi nombre es Lisette Hanowitz y yo soy parte del Consejo Municipal de la Ciudad de St. Petersburg. To me, a trailblazer is someone who sees opportunities that others can't see. Sometimes they see a world that doesn't exist. And I think people that are trailblazers has this burning desire inside to do something. And that doesn't end when they blaze that first trail. I see more and more people coming from different places and calling St. Pete home. And I think our city council is reflective of that. It's shocking, but we're still in an era where there is first. What really became clear to me what my trailblazers were as I got older is my mom and my family. And you don't appreciate the struggles they go through until you're older in life, and then you can see how difficult it was for them. And my family came from Cuba in the 60s through the freedom flights, and they left the country to go to another country where they didn't speak the language, completely different culture, and brought nothing with them and started anew. And if that's not a definition of a trailblazer, I don't know what is. My mom passed away last year. And when I won the primary, my mom was alive, and I was able to share that with her. And I wish I would have been able to share it with her that I won. The fact that my family left Cuba for freedom, and here I am being an elected representative. My family left a place where there are no elections, and I was elected to represent our city. That made me very proud, and I wish my mom would have been able to see it.
It made me so proud that my daughter saw me be elected. She was so excited, and all the other little girls, her friends. And in me, they saw themselves. And I think that's important because there were times when I was a child, I didn't see elected representatives that looked like me. We all bring our life experiences that are so different from each other. And the more diversity you have, the more life experiences you have, and you're not in an echo chamber. You're able to make better decisions if you do have diverse points of view. I think people think it's better when everyone agrees with them, but the only places I know where everyone agrees are places like Cuba and not free societies. In a free society, you should have discourse. And with discourse, diversity is important. I think everyone needs an example or someone to look up to. I think our kids need an example of what can happen in their future. And I think we have a diverse community, and that diversity should be expressed in every institution in our country. So once we do that, I think we're going to see more and more people participate. It's never too late. I had to drop out of school when I was 16 to help my mom work and pay the rent. And I went to school at night while I got my bachelor's and my MBA, and I went to law school at the age of 30. My path wasn't the normal path. And I think sometimes people think that it's too late for me. I can't get that degree. I can't learn that skill. And it isn't too late. I think if you want to do something, you should do it no matter what age.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah with the City of St. Pete's Water Resources Department, and I'm here to talk to you about what you need to know when we issue a boil water notice. There's a few reasons the city may issue a precautionary boil water notice: due to a line break caused by pipe failure, or the roots of falling trees damaging our potable water pipes. These events could affect water pressure and could allow contamination to enter the system. That's why experts recommend storing at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for 3 days. Use this supply first for drinking, cooking, and hygiene. If you must use tap water, boil it for at least 1 minute, then cool before using. Another option is adding a 1/4 teaspoon of plain unscented bleach to disinfect 2 gallons of water. Showers are safe if you're careful not to swallow water or get in your eyes, nose, or mouth. Children and those with weakened immune systems should take extra precautions. A boil water notice typically lasts at least 72 hours. When it's lifted, run your taps, flush your fountains and ice makers, and replace filters. Knowing these things before making a decision on evacuation is important to consider as a storm approaches. To stay up to date on events as they unfold, visit stpete.org/hurricane and follow our social media channels for updates.
When we talk about the Indian mounds, and Rui, you may think of it this way too, I think of that big sign out on Park Street that says, Panfilo de Narvaez landed here.
Everyone assumes that they landed somewhere on the Pinellas Peninsula when you can't really say exactly where. There were probably Indian mounds that covered the city from the Coffee Pot area all the way around the peninsula, up the west side of the city to to where Seminole is today, because there's still traces and evidence of them.
So there are a couple that remain here and there, but what happened to the rest of them? How come we don't see them in more spots around town?
When the automobile arrived in Florida and into St. Petersburg, imagine having an automobile with a tire that's that wide trying to drive up down Central Avenue and around downtown, getting stuck a lot in the sand. So a lot of those Indian mounds were used by city leaders. They used it to actually pave the streets of downtown St. Pete.
That's what became of history in that regard, huh?
Exactly.
Wow.
So every time Central Avenue and 3rd Street, when you cross Central Avenue, you say hello to some of the Indians. They may still be there. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
'Cause some of the Indians may still be there. Who knows?
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. Just brushing up on some of my favorite literary classics. Even if a page turner like this isn't up your alley, did you know our libraries offer so much more than classic books? There's also things like passes to local museums. You can download ebooks onto your Kindle device. And super cool things like a team gaming program. Visit your local library and see all it has to offer.
Food has always been a passion of mine. My passion from food comes from my grandfather. It was really just born out of the fact that I believe that he wanted to show us the world, and he did that through everyone's different cuisines. So like we would have really elaborate holiday parties, and we would have like Thanksgivings would be all designated toward like a different country, and he wanted to introduce us to that country, and it was through their food. So one of the things, we had a Japanese spread. I was not vegan at that point, but just the art of the cuisine, I was able to like eat with my eyes, and it just made me fall in love with sushi. When I went vegan, I realized I couldn't have sushi anymore. So it kind of started with a cookbook, and I did a pop-up, and then we were sold out, and then I kind of just went from there. I just did pop-ups, markets, and festivals, and I started delivering sushi to people's houses, and it kind of just caught on. I thought to myself, it would be nice to have a place, like a home base for everyone to come to me, and then also, again, give vegans the experience of what sushi is. Being in St. Pete, I feel like everything is happening on Central. I feel like Central is where a lot of businesses want to be. On a normal day, we would go through 4 pots of rice, and that was like a great day. And now coming to the new space, like we're going through like 8, 9, 10 pots of rice in one night, which is like, for us, is crazy.
Hey guys, Ken Welch here again on our Sunrunner tour. Today I'm with Catherine Woods, who was the artist that did so much of the work that you'll see at the stops. Thank you for joining us, Catherine.
Oh, my pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about what the art means.
Absolutely. Since St. Pete is such a mural city, if you took all the glasses out of all the shelters and put them together, it kind of looks like a mural, a continuous mural. If you take the glasses and where they are at all the 16 stops, they all relate to the neighborhood. So it's like the welcoming front porch to the community and the neighborhood that it's in.
What's the message you want to convey to folks who might be from out of town that see that?
I just want them to feel the joy of St. Petersburg. The colors are joyful, the way the sun comes through it's a very happy thing, and I just want them to feel that.
And what drew you to this project in the first place? How'd you become
Oh my gosh,
involved?
how could you say no to that big canvas? There's 2 glasses per station, and each one is 5 foot by 7 foot, 16 stations, so that's a lot of glass, and that's a lot of chance to get a message across and do a lot of beautiful color.
Well, thank you. It's beautiful art.
My pleasure.
And it tells the story of St. Petersburg.
It does.
Thank you, Catherine.
My pleasure.
So Bobby, I have heard the origin story of your relationship with Jamie and how that kept you here, but I don't think I've ever heard why you wanted to start the studio.
Well, you know, that's a very good question, but I think it stemmed most from, I mean, somebody told me this years later that Jamie was just trying to find something for me to do because Dave Ellis and myself, we had not fully form what the studio would be. And Jim was out looking for a building, found this place, and we were calling it a theater, but not necessarily. And I had never run a nonprofit before. I'd worked for dozens of them, but I'd never run one. And so I think it was a convergence of several things, and we just grew into it being what we now understand to be the studio, which is something David Ellis and myself never did an elevator speech or the one sound bite. It's many things. Lately, people have been calling it St. Petersburg's living room, which sounds nice. It's a home for the visual and performing arts, but it's evolved. But we never had a specific defining, we're gonna do this. It just evolved.
We are here today to celebrate more than $10 million in community funding requests from the federal government that Congresswoman Kathy Castor will be submitting to the federal budget.
It's such an exciting time to be in St. Petersburg. The city is growing. There are all sorts of new small businesses opening, but we want to make sure that as the city grows and thrives, that everyone benefits, all parts of the community.
These projects are transformational projects, and they really cover so many different facets of the importance of the quality of life in the city of St. Petersburg. These are really going to be transformational.
It's amazing the diversity of the impact. Part of this is $5 million for stormwater infrastructure improvements to deal with heavier rains and sea level rise and flooding in parts of our community. Another $4 million is for affordable housing on the Deuces in the Sankofa project, and we know that housing affordability is a major issue in our community. And another $1.5 million is to plan for the conversion of Enoch Davis to a really impactful community center for innovation and opportunity that will be like nothing we've ever seen here in South St. Pete.
Collaboration is not something that you always see when it comes to governments working together, but I think City of St. Petersburg has gotten it right. We have in the past been very successful at utilizing federal funding to do the most good for the most residents, and that is what we are intending on doing here today.
Having grown up in this neighborhood, I know what this community center means. It's very old, but it still is a hub. You have seniors here, you have young people, you have community groups here, and folks ought to be able to come here and make themselves better, lift themselves up, have the modern tech, have the facilities that are attractive and that you would want to use. And so that kind of impact is going to affect opportunities for young folks and old folks throughout St. Petersburg.
So these are steps in the road to progress for St. Pete. Here in Sunshine City, the future is bright, but you've got to make sure that you're lifting everyone.
District 5 is at the southern end of St. Petersburg. It's bordered by Tampa Bay to the south, Bogosiega Bay to the west, 4th Street South to the east, and as far north as 18th Avenue South. I'm Deborah Figgs Sanders, your council member for District 5, an immensely diverse district that is home to many of our city's treasures. To get in touch with nature, you can visit Maximo Park or Boyd Hill Nature Preserve to enjoy waterfront access, nature trails, all with family-friendly activities. Then there's Lake Vista's popular walking trail, playgrounds, and a dog park that encourages you to participate in a city initiative known as Healthy St. Pete. Also, education and academic excellence is important for our city. And in District 5, you will find 3 of Pinellas County Schools' finest in Bay Point Elementary, Bay Point Middle, and Lakewood High School. Not to mention the mighty Tritons of Eckerd College, a liberal arts waterfront campus which sits on the Gulf Peninsula of Florida's west coast. District 5 is a diverse makeup of cultures, communities, and socioeconomics that can be seen throughout our neighborhoods. Lake McGorry Shores offers a sense of community, or the Pink Streets in the Pinellas Point neighborhood that are a unique feature not seen anywhere else in the city. Our growing economy, friendly residents, and beautiful coastline showcases our best about living in St. Petersburg.
I'm Leo Anderson, co-owner of Taste of the Island Marketplace and Restaurant, 2231 34th Street South. I'm a family man and also a minister. I've been here in St. Pete now 5 years, and I've been loving it. Life here is great. It's a great place to live, great place to rear my family. This year makes 30 years that my family is actually been running the restaurant business in St. Pete. Started into it with my uncle, who's my partner in the business, who had the restaurant already, so I kind of bought into the restaurant. The idea of the grocery store was always there. It's just that we fast-tracked it because this was empty and it was right beside. So, came in and started doing, the reconnaissance and what it would take to get the market off the ground. We have a very friendly atmosphere. We have a very, very welcoming family atmosphere. That's number one. We pride ourselves in treating people good, whether you're paying us or not. We want you to feel at home. From spices to ground provisions to just snacks. We bring in chips from Jamaica. We bring in a lot of drinks from Jamaica. We bring in spices from Grenada. We bring in fresh soursop, which is a highly sought after item from Grenada and from Dominica. We really try to take the stuff that we're used to on the island and bringing it into St. Pete and let people who have tasted it or would like to try it, they can come on over and indulge. From customer to the generals in charge of running the city and so on, we have felt the presence and we feel welcome. As I say, it's a love affair. We are here to stay, really, in St. Pete. 30 years already and we're just getting started because, as you can see, what the family is trying to do is pass it from one generation to the next, and hopefully, God tarry, I'll be able to pass it to the next generation.
My name is Lisa Fleming. My business is Dress Up Studio. It's actually a boutique, one of the newest boutiques in downtown St. Pete, on the corner of 1st Avenue North and 6th Street. I'm from Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, fashion is big. I guess like everything started back with, my parents, right? Like especially my mom. My mom loves fashion, and of course, when she had her 4 kids, like everything kind of like all the attention like turned into us. So I was, early introduced to fashion. I had a passion for it. So I really wanted to have a space where I could find pieces, for any occasion. I was in an environment that was highly dominated by male, and I wanted to obviously, keep it professional, but still be true to myself. And, fashion was that, way to really, be able to have fun. St. Pete is very special in the sense that it truly supports small businesses. And I really feel like when you go out there and you have the opportunity to really engage with other business owners, they're extremely helpful as well. And I think that's incredibly valuable. There's something in here for every single person. They just need to come in and play with us.
The Pinellas Trail is probably the best way I've found to get all over the county without worrying about traffic or my pace. It's just a way to get around and have fun.
So in the spring, say on a weekend, on a Sunday, you'd find lots of folks out just walking, biking, just really enjoying the weather.
So the trail starts downtown by the water, and it goes all the way to Tarpon Springs, if I'm not mistaken. And I like it because it kind of cuts back behind the neighborhoods. There's murals, there's tree coverage, and it just kind of winds through the most beautiful parts of the city.
It's an awesome engineering feat, and it dissects the middle of an urban city, and at the same time, you feel like you're off to yourself. You're a little bit secluded, ample places for you to run, ride, and even collect your thoughts.
It's pretty quiet and peaceful. Quiet in the sense that there's typically during the day a lot of users on the trail, so you're never by yourself, but everybody's kind of in their own world, so it's not a lot of noise.
We were looking for a place that would be a hub for a healthy and active community, and one of the big things we wanted here was to have a place where people could run and walk right near our location. Pinellas Trail, which is right behind our facility, turned out to be the perfect location.
We do lots of events here at the store. We do probably about 100 free community group runs from here where we're using the trail.
Have a great walk, have a great run, guys.
The running community in St. Pete is so supportive and so encouraging of all of the runners, no matter your pace. Everybody's just encouraging you along the way. And so when I went to my first group run, I invited my mom to come and do an evening walk with me, and that became part of our weekly routine, particularly in the spring.
We do 2 runs a week, Monday and Thursdays, where we're running on the trail. So that's 100 times every year right there that we're out running on the trail with a group of people.
I retired from Pinellas County in urban planning, and so I was involved in the initial planning for the Pinellas Trail. We saw it as a means of providing a facility that could be used not just for recreation, but health-related benefits as we deal with obesity and other issues. So our planning was from